Hey, welcome back. All right, so in this tutorial, we are going to start making some models by using the Unreal Engine modeling tool, and I'm going to walk you through that process. In this tutorial specifically, we're going to make the model, so it's going to be a wall, and we're going to make a material for that wall. In the next tutorial, we're going to take that model and we're going to align the UVs so that they better align with the texture that we've created for our material. So let me go ahead and kind of walk you through what I'm talking about. So here we have a wall and also a material, this rock wall material right here. The texture that we used is this texture right here, and I wanted it to be able to line up better with the model here so that when it goes around corners, we can see that it lines up like this. And that's what I mean by aligning the UVs so that as it goes around the edges, everything still lines up so that it looks like it's the same brick that went across the top. In a future tutorial, we'll make some more advanced models like these. But let's go ahead and get started with the basics first. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to make the material. So we're going to go to a website called Polyhaven. And it's polyhaven.com. And if you go to this website, you'll see that they have a bunch of free textures, HDRIs, and models. So these are the backgrounds used for high resolution rendering when we're making models and things like that in some models, in some modeling software. Then we also have these textures here, and then there's also some 3D models that you can take a look through and download from there as well. Most of these are free. There is a Patreon that they have, so you can join the Patreon and pay some money to get it advanced access to some of the different models and textures and things. But we're just going to focus on using some of the free stuff this time around so that you get familiar with it. Now, you probably will most likely have to create an account, but you may not. Doesn't look like I'm actually signed in on this one. No. All right. So by going to the texture one, like I just did, and then scrolling down, you'll see that some of these are locked because these are for the Patreon account where you donate some money into the Patreon and you get early access to various things. We're going to look at some of the free ones. And because I'm making a brick wall, over here on the left-hand side, you can see they've got quite a few textures. These are high-quality textures and everything that you might possibly think about, I guess. There's probably tons of other things you might want, but 755 free material textures. I'm going to go to the brick one here, and I'm going to scroll down to this mossy brick right here. And I'm going to select the mossy brick. And when we do that, we see that there's this texture there with everything kind of popped up in front of us here. And we see that down here, and you can kind of peruse through. You can look at the material globe here if you wanted to. You can take a look at the flat textures as you walk through it, and then they show where they scanned it from and the color coding here. So some pretty cool stuff. And then these are the various maps that would come with this. All right. Over here on the right-hand side, we can pick the level of quality that we want. I'm going to stick with 8K. The way that you want to download it, Blender, GLTF, Material X, or zip. I'm going to download it as a zip. And when you select zip, you can either, over here there was would have been a little 3 lines here. If you click on that, you can go through and select the various things that you want to download it as. And again, Blender, GLTF, Metal X, or the various individual maps. And this is the ambient occlusion. This is an ARM, so ambient occlusion, rough and metallic. Diffuse, which is sometimes called albedo. A displacement map, normal DX, normal GL, and then a rough. I usually select all of these and download them and put them into my library so that I have them in the future when I need them. And most of the time, though, for Unreal Engine, I'm not using half of these maps. And I'll show you which ones we're going to use. So once you've got these selected, I'm going to go ahead and hit the download button. And while that downloads, I am going to pause. Okay, so now that it's downloaded, you'll see the little chat window popped up, and I have my downloads window here too. the way this works is they start making these free once they reach a certain dollar amount on their Patreon. So the next one is going to be this roadmap that will become available. That's what that pop-up's all about. Right here, this is the Mossy brick that I just downloaded. I'm going to unzip this. So I'm going to go to the downloads folder. And this is it right here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to extract all. And I'm going to hit the browse button. I've already downloaded and unzipped a few of these into my textures folder, but I have a textures folder on my storage drive, textures, and I'm going to create a new folder and just call this Mossy brick. And I'm going to select that folder and I'm going to extract it into there. All right, so now that it's extracted, this one will automatically pop up for me. If I go into the folders, you'll see that here, as soon as it updates, it'll start to build out the thumbnails, and you'll see that there are different looking colors. Again, AO, this is going to be our ambient occlusion, so the way the lighting kind of plays off of our surface area. This is the arm. It has the ambient occlusion in it, along with the roughness map and the metallic map. Also, individually, we have a roughness map and a metallic map. Actually, I didn't see where this one downloaded a metallic map. Okay, so we have the diffuse or albedo. We have a displacement, we have the normal, and then we have the roughness. Okay, so let's go ahead and get these set up. I'm going to move my downloads folder out of the way and this one out of the way. Go back to Unreal Engine. Down here in the content drawer, I'm going to go to my materials. So content materials, I'm going to right click and create a new folder. And I'm going to call this one Mossy brick. I'm going to double click, open that up. I'm going to find my folder with my textures in it. I'm going to select the arm. I'm going to select the diffuse. And I'm also holding the control button, going to select the normal DX. And then I'm going to drag and drop these into my Unreal. The other maps, I have them because of other software that may have a different approach at filling out or setting up your materials. And it's always kind of nice to have them if you need them later. All right, so they're now in my Unreal Engine. I'm going to get rid of that folder. With this open still, I'm going to right click, go to material. I'm going to type in M_Mossy brick. I'm going to double click and open that up. And here in my Mossy brick, I'm going to go to my content folder. And I am going to grab all three of those textures and drag them into the material. This is the arm. I'm going to leave it there. Grab the diffuse or albedo, depending on what you downloaded it from and what they refer to it as. It's the same thing. It's a color map. And then I'm going to grab the normal, slide it down, connect them up with the RGB, just like I did up there and to here. And then this is a little bit different. This is actually going to be set up a little bit differently. Get these out of the way. I don't know why they're here. Okay, so instead of using the RGB, we want to make sure before we do this, because, well, we can do it first, and we'll go ahead and connect it, but let's make a double check to make sure that this is set up for the right type of map. So I'm going to take the R, I'm going to connect it in, and I'm going to go down to ambient occlusion. The G is going to be my roughness, and the blue is going to be my metallic. I'm going to hit save. All right, so now that I've done that, let's go ahead and just make sure that this map is set up right. Usually it comes in correctly in default, but one of the things we want to double check to make sure is if we double click on it after we select the node, we can double click and open this map up. We want to make sure that the sRGB is correct over here, and it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that. We're going to select the material node, and over here, we're going to go ahead and make it so that this enable tessellation Although for this particular model we're about to make, we're not going to really use tessellation, but you may want to use this material on something else that does. And then we're also going to scroll down all the way down here, and we want to, in all these checkboxes here, we want to find one that says used with nanite. You can also type nanite into the search up there and find it. We're going to make those both eligible in there. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to be able to tile these, because we're going to be able to change the size of this material. We don't want it to just be one giant brick if it's used on a large model like we're about to use it. So I'm going to right click, and in here I'm going to type MF for material function underscore, and then I'm going to start to type in tile, and I'll use the one that's blue highlighted right here. Then from the output of the result, I'm going to connect this into all of these. We're going to go ahead and hit save. And we can close this material now. What we are going to do is we're going to go back to the content drawer and go back into my materials. I lost it. For my Mossy brick, I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to create a material instance. And at the end of next to the I or M, I'm going to type in an I for material instance and just hit enter. I'm going to do a file, save all. And if we double click on it, you'll see that this material instance has a bunch of different stuff in here that wasn't in here before for just our material. This allows us to make changes without having to make the changes in the material. We can make changes to the material instance. Say we need a certain size brick on one object and we need the same size brick on a different object, but when you go to tile them, they don't match up. You can make two different material instances and adjust the tiling on the two so that they match and it works the way you need it to. The way we can do that is if you click in here, we can adjust the tiling, and I'll change that once we put it on our model. We can also change rotation angle here. We didn't hook that up on the model, on the material, but it works already without having to do that. And this works with decimals, so 0.25 would actually be 90 degrees. And then 0.5 would be upside down, and then 0 or 360 would be the opposite direction. We also have additional things that we can check down here and adjust if we needed to. But we're not going to do that in this lesson. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save on this. I'm going to drop this over out of my way for right now, because now what we're going to do is we're going to make the model. Okay? And I'm going to show you a couple different things about it as we do it. All right. So let's go to our selection mode, and we're going to turn on modeling. So we're in the modeling mode. We're going to select create, and I'm going to want a box. And I'm going to reset mine back to all the originals. And we'll talk through what's going on here. So I do have show wire frame turn on. That's why we see these blue lines here. Make sure you go ahead and turn that on. Okay. The other thing we're going to do is before we make any modifications, we're going to come down here. We're going to go to our content drawer, and we're going to find our mesh. And inside the mesh, we're just going to open that folder up, because we're going to save this at some point, and we want it to go into our current folder that we have open. All right. So let's go ahead and modify this to be the size that we want it to be. So I'm going to make the width max out at 1000. You can override this by typing in numbers. Say you knew how long exactly you wanted it to be. You can come in and make that right away. For the depth, I'm going to change this to 50. And then for the height, I'm going to actually, this one is 200 back here. It's a little bit short for what I want to use this wall for. So I'm actually going to double this to 500. And that's way too big. So why don't we make this maybe 300? I think that'll be tall enough. We also need to put in a subdivision. Okay. And the reason why we need to put a subdivision is because when we go to set up our UVs, we're going to want to be able to split this center section here. So in order to be able to do that, we have to have a line through here. And we're going to want to do that right now as we're creating this mesh. I don't think that's something that we can come back and do later. So right here on the depth, I'm going to put in 2. When I do that, you see I get an extra straight line across here. I also get another triangle because it likes triangles in Unreal Engine. But right here I've got this straight line that I can later come in and I can cut and I can use as a seam. And that's going to kind of fix some things for us. We're not going to put any others in because this is just going to be a solid wall. The reason why we don't want to put more subdivisions in is because, again, I'm going to use this as a sub wall. I don't need to have all that extra geometry visible in my scene if I don't need it. Now, if this were going to be a wall that maybe I could explode or break through, we would want to have more subdivisions so that those subdivisions could be used for being able to break an object apart. We don't need that for this one. We're just going to do this simple wall. So once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and hit accept. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to give this a little bit more interest. I am going to want to select it again. I'm going to go here to select, and inside of select, I'm going to select the poly group edit. When I do that, you'll see there's a bunch of tools that open up in here for the face, for the shape, for the edge. I want to use the edge. I'm going to select this edge. I'm going to select, basically, by holding the shift button, I can select additional edges. I'm not going to select this end because that's going to be kind of a pain to have to deal with, and we're not going to be able to see it anyway. And then I'm going to select this one and this one. So now I've got all the top outer lines selected. I'm not going to worry about the bottom because we're not going to bevel the bottom. But what we're going to do is we're going to put a bevel in. So we're just going to put a bevel on these outer edges. So we're going to come down here and we're going to pick edge edits and we're going to pick bevel. When I do that, we still have the little box that shows the original shape, but if we look closely at it, you see that we got an angle here. I have my bevel distance set to 10 to give me this kind of decent angle right here. And since I made this wall, actually the wall is the same width. You know what, I'm going to leave it at 10. So I set mine at 10. By default, I think it's 4. Yeah, it's 4. But for the size of this wall, 10 will work just fine. The rest of this we can leave alone, but you can add subdivisions to this as well if you needed to have additional subdivisions in the bevel. We can show the wireframe again to kind of see what it looks like. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit accept action and then hit accept again. Okay, so now that we've done that, we've got our basic wall set up. I'm going to go into my content drawer and I'm going to go to my materials. I'm going to find my Mossy rock brick, my material instance. I'm going to click, I can drag it in here, or if I had details open, I could also put it in this slot here. And this is it, but the bricks are huge, right? So without changing anything, without doing anything with the UV, what we could do is we could just open up our material instance for our brick. And again, tiling here, I want these to be smaller. So I can, in the X, I can hit 5. And I can put 5 there. Now, I want them to continue looking like bricks, right? If you had some kind of weird, funky shape, you could have different numbers in here so they're not even to be able to get the brick back to the way it's supposed to look and the way you want it to look. But by putting in the tiling, basically what we've done is we've taken the brick texture here. So if you imagine this brick texture, we've taken it and we've added it so that it tiles 5 times across the top and 5 times across the bottom like this. So we have 5 and 5 to be able to get it to look the way we want it to look. So we've increased the number of texture repeats or material repeats on this particular model. In the next tutorial, we're going to do the UV and kind of make it so that this material looks better. Because right now, if we take a look at it, it doesn't really line up correctly. Along here, we've got these kind of partial pieces that are just kind of hanging out there. And it sort of does the same thing here on the edge. Doesn't quite look right. Now, these are going to be hidden by these towers right here. But we want this edge along here to look correct. And it doesn't look bad in some spots, but when you look at it in others, like here, it doesn't quite line up right. Okay, we can see that up along the top there. Again, we wouldn't really see those edges because they're going to be hidden by the pillars. And this isn't so bad. And some spots are not so good. We could get away with this because, like I said, we're going to put these pillars here. But this is a simple object for me to be able to show you the UVing process and how to do that inside of Unreal Engine. And we'll talk about what a UV is also in the next tutorial. All right, so that's it for this tutorial. Again, UVs next time. We'll get more into it. Thanks for watching. If you like this tutorial, please hit a like down in the bottom for me. And don't forget to subscribe so you can follow along with additional tutorials. I'll see you next time.